In the tech field, there's a lot of different kinds of jobs. Everything from QA people and developers all the way up to architects and managers and DevRel and everything. But I'm going to talk about developers specifically because I think we're hiring them all wrong.
Just take it easy, man.
You can't handle the truth. Forget it, Donnie. You're out of your element.
That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
You see, hiring developers is expensive. I think we all know that. We get paid a really good wage, essentially for problem solving. And unfortunately, we're repeating some of the same mistakes from the past. We're trying to figure out how to hire developers. So how are we hiring developers now? I'm incredibly happy to see that we've passed the asking developers mystical questions or making them code on whiteboards. No more having to figure out how many manhole covers there are in the world is a good step. But what's happening now is we're asking developers to do coding challenges and to take tests in order to figure out whether they have the skills we want. Well, here's what I have to say. The skills don't matter. We're still stuck in a world where acronyms rule the roost. We have recruiters out there trying to match keywords to find the right people for companies, and that means asking them about what languages they know, what databases they've used, what tools they use on a daily basis. That's never been a good way to judge developers. Remember, development is about problem solving. Always has been. This goes back to the 40s when the first software developers were hired, and we've never known how to hire them. There used to be these aptitude tests that asked all sorts of questions, none of which had any bearing on the actual job of software development. The fact is, what we do is a bit mercurial. It isn't as black and white as true engineering. We're problem solvers. You're going to hear me say that a lot because that's our job. So our knowledge of C# or JavaScript or TypeScript or Java or Python, none of that matters nearly as much as that we can take a problem and try to see a way to solve it. Maybe not always the best way, but we can find a way to solve it. Sometimes eloquent, sometimes brute force. So what am I looking for in developers? I'm looking for intuition. I'm looking for curiosity, and I'm looking for the lack of faking what you know. That's crucial in this whole world. Many of you have heard me tell this story before, but trying to get a developer to say, I don't know in an interview is always a good idea. Finding developers that won't bluff is the key part of interviewing as far as I'm concerned. This whole notion that we're hiring for fit or for culture, I don't think that's as important either, because the quietest voices in the room and the loudest voices in the room need to work together. So finding all of the same people, the same personality types, is a recipe for disaster. So what do I want them to know? I've talked to them a bit. I figured out that they're bright. I figured out that they're curious. I figured out that they can solve interesting problems. But what kind of skills am I looking for? Often what I'm really looking for is domain knowledge. That's the more complicated thing. Someone who has been in the same industry brings all this knowledge regardless of the technology. If I'm working for a trucking company, having someone come in that knows the domain language of that industry is crucial. Same with medicine, same with car making. It doesn't matter your industry, but having an understanding of how that business works will help them problem solve better than anything. Most developers know multiple languages, multiple tools, are eager to learn what the new thing is, because developers aren't just problem solvers, they're also lifetime learners for the most part. And so when the technology shifts, these are the people that are going to go, oh, you know what? We probably shouldn't be doing VB6 anymore. We should be doing .NET. Or we shouldn't be doing .NET anymore. We should be doing Go, or whatever the flavor is, right? They are the people that you want to know can learn the new thing, because that is the part that isn't static. You want to know what is static? How many cans of Coke you can get in a pallet, right? And understanding how you figure out how to pack those pallets and then make that into software that can validate that. That's tough. The ins and outs of writing a for loop and an if loop and creating variables, functional versus object-oriented, none of that matters in the giant picture. I want developers who can hit the ground running, knowing that they're going to be curious enough to want to learn, to be passionate. Now, passionate is sort of an ugly word. Because often when hiring managers talk about looking for passionate employees, they mean people that will work overtime and weekends and not have a family life. And that's not what I mean by passionate. I think a better word than passionate is curious. Someone who will dig in without having to be handed every small thing, that will want to know how things work. The reality is the best developers I've worked for and worked with have always been curious about the whole picture, the gestalt of it all. Knowing how your small piece that you're building for a larger piece fits into it all and how that provides value. So if you're a developer watching this, continue to be curious. I know most of you out there are. I'm hoping we can get to the hiring managers to explain to them how to really find the right people for their organization. And it's almost never an acronym, almost never a keyword. Thanks for watching. This is another of my rants. Please like, subscribe, or whatever all those YouTube people tell you to do. It really does help. Thanks again.